Hi guys, Bran Crow here, back with another video for you today. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing things that I learned whilst writing and producing my online show. This is by no means the full or most comprehensive list of things that you should know before you start writing your online show. However, they're things that I learned and are definitely things I'd like to pass on to you so to make your life easier if that's a route you decide to take. If you have any other ideas or points that you think will make life easier for other performers, please make sure to drop them down in the comments below. Although I appreciate that the world is starting to reopen now, online shows are still a thing and I think they'll be here to stay for a while. So this information is still very relevant. Enough of my jibber jabber, let's get to it. So in no particular order, at number 1, I've got prepare to put in 110% of the energy. Normally when you're working with an audience, there's some back and forth and the energy levels are shared between the two parties. I found that performing online, you have to give everything. It's a lot harder for spectators to build up that energy with claps and cheers when the likelihood is they're going to be muted, they can't see each other, or maybe you can't even see them. I found that in order to keep the momentum going, I had to give everything, and I had to make sure there were no downbeats and it was all up. Now that kind of brings me on to my second point, that although you need to be giving 110% energy, you also have to be prepared for a little bit of dead air. A lot of the time you can prepare for these parts of dead air because you should know where they're going to be. The chances are they're going to be when you've asked a spectator to do something, for example, unmute their microphone. No matter how much you try and prepare the audience by checking that they know where the unmute button is, you can guarantee that most spectators will take a few seconds to find and unmute themselves. So it's always good to know what you're going to say and maybe start leading into the effect whilst you're waiting for them to get ready. Both points 1 and 2 can be helped by my following point. Point number 3, if you can, get yourself a producer. It doesn't have to be a professional producer. It doesn't have to be someone particularly tech savvy, just someone that you can put behind your computer to do all of the manual tasks for you. I was really lucky that I had my wife produce my online show. She managed the Zoom, let people in and out, was able to mute people, disconnect people, and she also controlled my camera angles through OBS. Now that doesn't mean that you have to have somebody doing all of those things for you. If you're confident in your computer skills, you can probably do it at the same time, but why run if you're not being chased? If you can have someone there to support you, 100%, it's definitely worth it. That moves me to point number 4 on my next point, which is play around with some software beforehand. There are so many different platforms that you can use in order to do an online show, most of which offer free trials or free versions for you to play around with first. Personally, I used Zoom mixed with OBS, which is a great piece of broadcasting software where you can swap between screens, have different angles, effects, subtitles, you name it. It's like a TV studio on your PC. Also, make sure you know how to use the software before you start. If that means you have to do a quick group call with a couple of friends and either yourself or your producer, just to make sure that they can do all of the buttons and know where everything goes, and you can also iron out any flaws that might come up during the show. Number 5 is think about how you're going to give your instructions to your spectator. Now that might sound like a really obvious thing to say, but in person it's very easy to demonstrate or mime what you want the person to do. Online, it's completely different. There are times in my show where I ask people to pick 1 of 4 numbers, and they struggle because I didn't understand what I was asking them to do. And I genuinely feel that's because they were online and they weren't really prepared to be asked to do something. Point number 6, make sure your audience know who you are speaking to. When you're in a room full of people, or in a parlour, or even just doing close-up, your spectator knows you're talking to them because you're addressing them directly and you're looking at them in the eyes. On Zoom, however, you're just looking at the screen and everyone's looking straight back at you. It's very hard for you to let them know who you're talking to. The names on Zoom aren't always enough. On one of my shows, I had somebody called Eddie and somebody else who was apparently known as Eddie to their friends. So when I asked for Eddie to unmute, they both unmuted and started talking, even though only one of them had Eddie as their screen tag. A way I got around that in the future was to say things like, hey, Eddie in the blue shirt, if you don't mind unmuting. Just a way to confirm exactly who it is you're speaking to. Number 7, online attention spans are a lot shorter than in person. As anyone who's tried to do a YouTube video will know, you quite easily lose viewers halfway through the video, no matter how entertaining and uplifting you try to be. The same happens with your online shows. No matter how much an audience try to be engaged with you, they're still just watching a screen, and it is very easy for them to get distracted. Now the way I combated this was to try and keep as many people involved at any one time as possible. That doesn't mean you have to have everyone involved at every moment, but just make sure you're not spending too much time on fancy slides and handwork and the camera just being focused on what you're doing. Ensure there's some back and forth that will keep the spectators engaged, and it means that they have to think whether they're about to be spoken to or not. Number 8, one of the most important things you can do is to make sure you have good sound. Quite often, people think that they care about the quality of the video, but when they think that, they're actually really referring to the audio. If you think about how often you try and watch something on YouTube, if it's a little bit grainy but you can hear it crystal clear, you're likely to stick with it. If the video is perfect but you can't hear what they're saying, or it's been filmed on someone's GoPro with their hand over the microphone, it's all muffled, it's easy just to dismiss. It's much more important that your audience can hear you clearly than it is that they can see you clearly. For an online show, most normal webcams will do for video, but I do encourage you to pick up something better as a microphone. I picked up a really good mic on Amazon for less than £60. It's the one I record all this sound on and do all my Discord and online shows with. It works a dream, inexpensive, but is an absolute whopping piece of kit. And finally, number 9, don't discount traditional methods of performing. When I very first started writing my show, it was very easy for me to dismiss things that I didn't think would work in an online format. I spent so much time thinking about things that would be more visual that I completely disregarded a whole bunch of the more traditional methods that we use every day in normal shows and normal walk around. You can genuinely do these things online if you take a moment to think about it. One of these big things that really helped me was the use of pre-show. Now, I'm not going to go too much into detail of what I did or how I used it, but a lot of people are put off with that online, thinking that people are going to notice or spot. But it's actually a lot easier because no one knows who you've spoken to beforehand. Now, I'm not talking about stooging or instant stooging. I'm talking about proper pre-show where the audience member or the spectator don't know that they're involved when they are. One project I would definitely advise you looking at if you are considering doing an online show is Colin Cloud's Cyber Secrets, which is available on his Psych Artist website. After watching that gave me a brand new way of thinking about things and how I wanted to perform my online show. As always, I will leave descriptions to that and other items that I've discussed in the video in the description below. I have to say, as much as I had fun performing my online show, I don't think I'd write another one unless I absolutely had to. I love being in the same room as my audience and being able to engage with them on a one-on-one level. My style of performance is much more personal and I don't feel that conveys very well in an online format. Saying that though, I do think that online shows are here to stay for the foreseeable future, and if you want to try doing something like that, then go for it. Absolutely go for it. You can't lose anything, and it's a great way to start performing if you haven't performed before. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I will be back on Tuesday with another one of my inspiration sessions, so make sure that you click that like, subscribe and notification bell so you get notified as soon as it is uploaded. Once again, I have been Bran Crow. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me. I will see you all again soon.